Lucas Marshall, a man of considerable wealth and undeniable arrogance, found himself entangled in a wager that would alter the course of his life in unimaginable ways. He thrived on success, both in his career and personal endeavors, with competition driving his ambition. However, when his dear friend Jack issued a daring challenge at an extravagant New York gathering, Lucas found himself captivated. With a sly grin, Jack tossed out the challenge. "Let's find out if you can take this one, Lucas. I challenge you to consider marrying someone who doesn't align with your typical preferences." Lucas, recognized for his relationships with slender, attractive women, was surprised. Yet, ever keen to demonstrate his worth, he arched an eyebrow and inquired, "And what's the reward?" With a playful smirk, Jack lifted his champagne glass and declared, $1 million to the victor, but you must wed her and remain married for no less than 6 months. Lucas, sensing the thrill of rivalry and the allure of a monetary test, consented without a moment's pause. The woman Jack envisioned was Chloe Richards, a person who defied traditional notions of beauty. Lucas was unfamiliar with her, yet to him, it was merely another opportunity to seize. Several days passed before Lucas obtained additional information regarding Chloe. She exuded confidence, embraced her independence, and possessed a strong will, a stark contrast to the women Lucas had known. This piqued his curiosity even further. Accustomed to having the upper hand, he pondered how he would cope with someone who refused to yield to his desires. Their initial encounter unfolded in an opulent dining establishment. Upon Chloe's arrival, Lucas instantly recognized her uniqueness, setting her apart from anyone he had encountered before. She appeared unfazed by the elegant surroundings or by Lucas himself. Instead, she met his gaze with unwavering assurance. "You must be Lucas Marshall," Chloe said as she took a seat. "And you must be Chloe Richards," Lucas responded, a measured smile on his face as he reached out his hand. She paused for a moment, then grasped it firmly, demonstrating her resolve. "Let's get straight to the point," Chloe began, her tone direct. "I understand the purpose of our gathering. I am aware of the wager, the stipulations, and the requirements." Lucas was taken aback by her straightforwardness, yet he kept his composure. "And still, you chose to meet?" he inquired, intrigued by her reasons. Chloe took a brief moment to gather her thoughts before responding. "Let's just say I have my motives. I'm not gullible, Lucas. Half a year might appear brief, yet so much can transform within that span. You might believe you have the power to influence or dictate my actions, but you are sorely mistaken." Lucas beamed with joy. Chloe was turning out to be a greater challenge than he had expected, which only added to the intrigue for him. As their initial encounter drew to a close, Lucas felt a growing fascination with Chloe. She was unlike anyone he had encountered previously. Her lack of fear intrigued him, stirring a sense of curiosity and even admiration within him. As time went on, Lucas found himself consumed by thoughts of how to tackle the next phase. He had always been the one in control, but now it appeared that Chloe was playing by her own rules. Their second meeting unfolded in a modest cafe, a stark contrast to the lavish restaurants Lucas typically visited. Chloe proposed the location, and Lucas, intrigued, consented. He sought to unravel the mystery of her identity and the reasons behind her acceptance of what appeared to be a fleeting union of marriage. Upon Lucas's arrival, Chloe was present, enjoying her tea with a serene smile. She welcomed him with a warmth that contrasted their initial meeting, yet maintained that same unwavering confidence in her demeanor. "I thought you were all about five-star dining," Chloe teased as Lucas took a seat. "At times, it's beneficial to shake things up," Lucas responded, attempting to maintain a nonchalant demeanor, even as he sensed a hint of discomfort creeping in. They engaged in light conversation, sharing trivial information, but Chloe swiftly cut to the chase. "If we're truly committed to this, I need to clarify a few points," Chloe stated, setting her cup of tea down on the table. "I have no desire for your wealth or extravagant way of living. Half a year is just that, and my intention is to leave this experience unchanged from how I began. Lucas observed her intently, aware of her sincerity. Chloe was the kind of woman who had a clear vision of her desires, and evidently, marriage was not a means for her to ascend the social hierarchy, unlike many others. "What is it that you desire, Chloe?" Lucas inquired, his curiosity evident. "Liberty." She responded promptly and confidently. "I want to express that while we are moving forward with this agreement, I will not be under your control. I lead my own life, and that won't shift due to a fleeting marriage." Lucas beamed. Though it wasn't the response he anticipated, he found himself surprisingly at ease with allowing Chloe this liberty. For him, tying the knot was merely a procedural step to secure the wager. If she wished to maintain her autonomy, it wouldn't trouble him. "All right," Lucas consented. "Half a year. Following that, we part ways." Chloe observed him intently, as though seeking confirmation that he truly accepted the terms laid before them. She embraced this challenge with a clear vision, resolutely committed to making sure everything unfolded as she desired. Deep down, she understood that Lucas could attempt to twist the circumstances to his advantage, yet she had faith in her own resilience to withstand his sway. The meeting concluded amicably, with both parties departing with their responsibilities distinctly outlined. Chloe would maintain her autonomy, while Lucas would guarantee that the union remained merely a formality. As the days went by and the wedding date drew nearer, Lucas found himself increasingly aware that this game might be more complex than he had initially thought. The wedding unfolded in a stark, unadorned fashion, reminiscent of a meticulously arranged business agreement. Lucas Marshall, with his keen sense of strategy, envisioned himself as the inevitable victor of the wager. He was convinced that the next 6 months would pass in the blink of an eye, and that Chloe, despite her stubbornness, would ultimately succumb to the opulent life he was preparing to present to her. Immediately following the ceremony, Lucas escorted Chloe to his expansive penthouse in the bustling center of New York, a testament to his affluence. The expansive glass windows mirrored the vibrant city lights, while the interior boasted the finest and most luxurious decor. For him, this was the true arena, where he would conquer Chloe by wielding the strength of his tangible possessions. From the outset, Chloe was unmistakably resolute in her determination to stand her ground. Upon entering the penthouse, she adopted a cool and detached attitude. The glance she cast at Lucas was not filled with admiration, but rather with a sense of defiance. "Half a year, Lucas." "Not a day more," she declared with conviction, striding towards one of the expansive windows, gazing at the city, unfazed by the opulence surrounding her. Lucas beamed, radiating assurance. He had grown accustomed to this type of opposition at the outset. Every woman who crossed his path ultimately succumbed to his allure and affluence. Chloe would remain unchanged, or so he believed. In the initial days following the wedding, Lucas made every effort to captivate her attention. He lavished her with opulent jewelry, high-end fashion, and extravagant vacations, all with the hope that Chloe would begin to embrace the lifestyle he prescribed. Yet, to his dismay, she turned it all down. Chloe remained steadfast in her commitment to a straightforward, unpretentious routine, refusing to succumb to the allure of affluence. "I don't need these things, Lucas," she would say, her calmness only serving to irritate him further. It profoundly troubled him. For the first time, Lucas, accustomed to having his every desire fulfilled, found his authority being questioned. The wager had evolved into something far more significant. At this point, it had become deeply personal. He needed to find a way to win Chloe's heart. He had to demonstrate that ultimately, he was the one holding the reins. That was the moment he began to adopt a more aggressive style of play. He prevented her from going to work, presenting arguments such as, "You no longer require a paycheck, or your duty as my wife." When Chloe pressed the issue, he kept her waiting for hours for meetings she believed held significance. Lucas orchestrated timelines, circumstances, and every detail to assert his dominance. Yet Chloe stood her ground. She stood firm against Lucas' efforts, and that only fueled his determination to overcome her. Their relationship started to resemble a treacherous landscape. In seemingly insignificant exchanges, subtle provocations emerged, as Chloe, armed with incisive remarks, dismantled every effort Lucas made to undermine her or exert control. On one notably charged evening, Lucas opted for a more heartfelt strategy. "I can't quite grasp your perspective, Chloe," he remarked, gazing at her with a blend of exasperation and intrigue. "Most women would revel in this kind of luxury, yet you seem to treat it as if it falls short. What is it that you truly desire?" Chloe, previously unyielding, finally raised her gaze, and it sparkled with an intensity that took Lucas by surprise. "What is it that I desire? I seek respect, Lucas. I refuse to be just another pawn in your game. You believe that wealth can dictate my actions, but you are mistaken. Wealth cannot purchase respect or moral character. Surrounded by countless possessions, yet a profound emptiness lingers within you, and that is the source of your discontent." Her words struck him with the force of a blow to the stomach. For the first time, Lucas sensed that he might be losing more than mere control. Chloe wasn't merely opposing his authority, she was deconstructing the illusion he had crafted throughout the years. And that filled him with fear. No one had ever confronted him in such a manner, and the realization that Chloe looked past his riches left Lucas feeling vulnerable. But rather than retreating, Lucas chose to strengthen his hold. He began devising schemes to distance Chloe, aiming to make her understand that her life would be significantly more challenging without his presence. He severed connections, shut down opportunities that could propel her career forward, and even undermined significant events she was orchestrating. Nevertheless, Chloe was not one to be easily daunted. With each strike, she rose again, fueled by an unwavering resolve. She clung to her sense of self, determined not to be molded by Lucas. And then, one evening, Chloe revealed her own strategy. "Lucas, you believe you have everything figured out, don't you?" She spoke with intention. "However, what remains hidden from you is that I have a strategy of my own, and trust me, when the moment arrives, you'll realize that this entire scenario is founded on something far more significant than you could have ever envisioned." Lucas gazed at her, taken aback. For the first time, he came to the realization that he may have misjudged Chloe. For the first time, a sense of dread washed over him, the unsettling realization that he might not emerge victorious in this contest. The days passed like a taut string, becoming increasingly strained with each moment, poised to break. In his relentless pursuit of dominance, Lucas explored every avenue to twist the situation in his favor, yet Chloe stood firm, unwavering in her defiance. She stood as an impenetrable stronghold, unyielding to his attempts to breach her defenses. Each effort he put forth only appeared to bolster her inherent resilience. Yet, there was an undeniable truth that Lucas faced. As time passed, his perception of Chloe began to shift. It transcended mere admiration for her strength, there was an underlying significance. She was engaging in an act unparalleled by any other woman, skillfully unraveling his emotions. And that left him feeling unsettled, perplexed. For the first time, he found himself contemplating her not as a mere wager or rival, but as an individual he truly wished to comprehend. One evening, following a passionate dispute, Lucas found himself solitary in the expansive living room, gazing out at the city through the glass panes. The shimmer of the city lights once filled him with a sense of authority, yet now, all that remained was a profound emptiness. He pondered the reasons behind his feelings. Chloe was merely a woman he had been married to for 6 months. She was meant to be merely a pawn in his elaborate scheme, nothing beyond that. Yet, the reality was, she was igniting a spark within him. He, who had always maintained a firm grip on his emotions, was now feeling their impact. Chloe pierced through his facade, leaving him feeling exposed. While Lucas grappled with his inner turmoil, Chloe continued with her daily rituals. Each day, she appeared to drift further away, as though she were anticipating something just beyond reach. Lucas sensed an unseen barrier separating them, a barrier he couldn't penetrate, and it haunted him. He was uncertain whether it stemmed from pride or the anxiety of relinquishing control. Yet there was an undeniable allure about Chloe that captivated him, in a manner he had never envisioned before. "You're unique, Lucas," remarked Jack, his friend who had suggested the wager over a relaxed dinner. "Typically, you would have everything managed by this point, yet it appears this woman is testing you like no one else ever has." Lucas offered a strained smile, momentarily at a loss for words. He loathed the thought of conceding that Jack had a point, yet it was evident that something was shifting. That evening, Lucas returned with a resolve to resolve matters. He had to push Chloe from his thoughts, had to reinforce the idea that this was merely a contract, nothing beyond that. As he entered the penthouse, he discovered Chloe seated on the couch, engrossed in a book, blissfully oblivious to his arrival. "May we have a conversation?" Lucas inquired, shattering the quiet that had settled into their routine. Chloe lifted her gaze, gently set her book aside, and regarded him with a tranquil yet focused demeanor. "Absolutely," she responded, as though this moment had been anticipated for ages. Lucas positioned himself opposite her, searching for the perfect expression. The air crackled with unspoken tension between them. He realized that he could no longer regard this marriage as merely a formality. Something was shifting, and he needed to confront it directly. "What are we up to here, Chloe?" he inquired, his sincerity catching even him off guard. "This began as a playful challenge, a wager, yet now I'm left in a haze of uncertainty." Chloe fixed her gaze on him for a moment, weighing her response carefully. "I'm serious, Lucas. I was never that." Her voice carried a serene quality, yet it was rich with significance. "From the outset, I embraced this union for motives that extend beyond your presence. The money and your control over matters hold no significance for me. I'm destined for something greater, and if that hasn't become clear to you yet, perhaps it's time to see the truth." Lucas experienced a constriction in his chest. It felt like she was unveiling a mystery he had yet to unravel. He was engulfed by frustration. "Your secrets are evident, Chloe, yet what frustrates me is that the harder I strive to comprehend you, the clearer it becomes that I'm losing my grip, and that feeling is unbearable." He abruptly rose to his feet, restless and agitated, as though the burden of that revelation was overwhelming. Chloe stayed composed, observing his every action. She rose gradually and approached him, halting mere inches apart. Lucas sensed his heart pounding in his chest. "Lucas," she started, her voice gentle and quiet. "This is not a matter of control. You've spent your life striving to assert your influence over everything and everyone, but with me, you'll discover that mastery isn't always the solution. At times, reality must simply unfold as it is meant to be." Lucas gazed into her eyes, and in that fleeting moment, he experienced a bond unlike any he had ever known. For the first time, it felt as if he was genuinely perceiving Chloe as she truly was, rather than merely a pawn in his strategy. "What is it that you desire?" he inquired, his tone gentler now, nearly a murmur. Chloe smiled, an enigmatic smile that sent shivers down his spine. "It's something you need to discover on your own, Lucas." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving him behind, solitary with his reflections. In the days that followed, the gap between them appeared to widen, yet oddly enough, Lucas found himself feeling more connected to Chloe than he ever had. He was consumed by the need to uncover her secrets, to decipher her genuine motives, and simultaneously, he sensed that he was slipping away from his own grasp. He was reluctant to acknowledge it, yet Chloe was reshaping his perspective on life, and the mere thought that she could influence him so profoundly filled him with dread. The 6 months of marriage were nearing their end, yet for Lucas Marshall, every single day stretched on endlessly. Sleep eluded him. The impending truth he sensed he was about to uncover twisted his stomach in knots. Chloe had transformed into a mysterious figure in his existence. He regarded her not merely as the woman he wed on a whim, but as a person who possessed an understanding that eluded him. The relentless pursuit to grasp Chloe enveloped him. He had explored every avenue to reveal the mystery she held, yet each revelation only deepened the enigma. Lucas engaged the services of detectives, delved into her history, and pursued every possible lead, yet it all appeared to be meticulously arranged by Chloe. She seemed perpetually 2 steps ahead, orchestrating the entire game from the outset. After a long evening spent in discussions, Lucas returned to the penthouse later than he typically would. The balcony light glowed softly, illuminating Chloe as she sat, gazing out over New York like a sovereign surveying her realm. He understood that this evening was the moment when all would come to light. Lucas sensed that she was on the brink of revealing the truth he had longed to uncover, yet the anxiety of the potential revelation constricted his throat. He approached her, the soft thud of his footsteps resonating in the stillness of the room. Chloe hesitated before turning around. The atmosphere was thick, as if an unspoken understanding lingered between them, hinting at the impending calamity. "I require answers, Chloe," Lucas stated, his tone resolute, even as his heart pounded in his chest. "This game has become unbearable for me. You must reveal the truth to me." Chloe let out a slow sigh and stood up from her chair, pivoting to look at him. Her eyes, typically serene and analytical, now glimmered with a feeling Lucas found impossible to understand. Within her, a novel essence stirred, one that was both shadowy and intense. "What's the truth, Lucas?" She offered a sardonic smile, folding her arms across her chest. "Are you truly seeking the truth?" He nodded with certainty, yet the atmosphere thickened with every fleeting moment. Lucas steeled himself for any response, yet nothing could have equipped him for the revelation that awaited him. "You have no idea who I am," Chloe began, her voice laced with an unsettling chill. "You've always viewed others as pieces in your game, but now, Lucas, you find yourself as the piece on the board. I had been engaged with this game since its inception." Lucas experienced a chilling sensation coursing through him. The confidence he once held in his ability to maintain control was starting to unravel before her eyes. He attempted to voice his thoughts, yet Chloe silenced him. "Do you recall the name Richards?" She pressed on, her tone becoming more incisive. "Naturally, that's not the case. Individuals such as yourself often fail to recall. My father ran a modest business, one that fought to stay afloat until you arrived and brought it to its end." Lucas took a step back, his eyes widening as his thoughts raced, desperately attempting to piece everything together. "Excuse me?" Lucas faltered, bewildered. "What are you referring to?" Chloe advanced, her gaze fierce with a mix of fury and sorrow. "My father, Lucas, was a man of integrity, tirelessly working to provide for our family until you arrived and stripped us of everything. You destroyed him, Lucas. He lost it all, and it ultimately resulted in his demise." Chloe hesitated, her voice faltering briefly as tears began to gather in her eyes. "My father took his own life due to your empire, your relentless pursuit of success at any cost." Her words struck Lucas with the force of a gut-wrenching blow. He remained motionless, as fragments of the past gradually emerged. Countless deals had been struck, numerous contracts signed, and countless lives altered by his insatiable greed. He struggled to recall each organization he had defeated on his ascent to success. Yet now, unexpectedly, it was all returning to torment him. "Chloe," he attempted to interject, urgency in his voice, but she lifted her hand, halting him in his tracks. "No," she exclaimed, her fury reaching a peak. "You cannot fathom the impact of your actions. It's more than just financial gain, Lucas. It concerns shattered existences. You have taken away my father, the sole person I had in this world. As you flourished, my mother and I found ourselves drowning in debt and hopelessness. Your existence was filled with opulence, while we struggled to find enough to eat." Lucas was utterly astonished. He yearned to articulate his thoughts, to justify his actions, yet silence enveloped him. He stood there, frozen, his gaze fixed on her while the heavy burden of guilt settled heavily upon him. "But I organized every detail," Chloe continued, her tone now steadier, yet still brimming with bitterness. "Upon discovering your wager, I recognized an opportunity. I came to you intentionally. I took on the wager to ensure you experienced even a small part of what I went through. I wanted you to share in the experience of being toyed with, controlled, and rendered helpless." Lucas sensed a quiver coursing through his body. He had always perceived himself as the master of his fate, firmly convinced that triumph was his destined outcome. But now, the situation had shifted. He found himself in the crosshairs, while Chloe, the strategist, maneuvered every piece on the chessboard. "Chloe," Lucas started to speak, but his voice came out faint. I had no idea you were." "No, Lucas," Chloe interrupted, moving closer until their faces were mere inches apart. "You were oblivious, simply because it didn't matter to you. You shattered lives with no hesitation. And now, I stand before you not to bring your end, but to ensure that the memory of your actions lingers forever. You will come to understand the depth of the hurt you've inflicted, and that hurt, Lucas, will linger with you eternally." Chloe's words enveloped him as if they were a decree. Lucas encountered a situation unlike any he had faced previously, confronting the genuine repercussions of his choices. The burden of guilt bore down heavily, and in that instant, he realized he had forfeited far more than just a mere wager. He had lost something forever beyond his reach. Chloe withdrew, the stillness resonating throughout the penthouse. Lucas's legs buckled beneath him, and he sank onto the couch, rendered speechless, searching for answers that eluded him. What lingered was nothingness. Chloe's revelation echoed in Lucas's mind like an unyielding tempest. Each word she uttered fractured, bit by bit, the reality he believed he understood. The woman he believed he could control, whom he regarded merely as a piece in his scheme of dominance and wagers, had just turned the entire game on its head. For the first time, Lucas found himself at a loss for how to respond. For the first time, he felt completely unrestrained. Chloe, on the other hand, rushed him, leaving no room for contemplation. After revealing the harsh reality of her family's ruin and her father's tragic end, she exited the room, leaving him to grapple with his own remorse. Lucas remained still, the atmosphere in the penthouse thick and oppressive, as if the very world around him was crumbling away. He yearned to reach out to her, to express his regrets, to clarify the unexplainable. Yet, the reality was that no words emerged. How could he rationalize an act so heartless, one that had inflicted such deep suffering? In the days that followed her revelation, Chloe did precisely what Lucas dreaded the most. She utterly disregarded him. Her presence served as an unyielding echo of his shortcomings. She strolled by him, treating him like a mere figment, as if he were nothing more than a fleeting shadow. During breakfast, she remained quiet, hardly raising her gaze. As he attempted to voice his thoughts, his words lingered in the atmosphere, unable to penetrate the barrier she had constructed between them. Lucas, accustomed to leading the conversation and basking in the spotlight, now found himself overlooked within the very walls he called home. The lack of attention was intolerable. Chloe engaged with the staff and managed her personal matters, yet with Lucas, it felt as though he was invisible. The burden of this imposed quietude was gradually unraveling the identity he believed he possessed. "Chloe," he attempted to reach out one morning while she was getting ready to leave, "we need to talk." She paused, her back turned to him, as she fiddled with her coat. The stillness enveloped the space, and Lucas lingered, his heart racing for any sign of response. Any word, even one filled with rage, would have been preferable to the apathy. Yet Chloe remained silent. She quietly exited, softly shutting the door behind her, leaving Lucas with the lingering resonance of the sound in his thoughts. The ache of being overlooked by someone he was starting to perceive as more than just a rival was an unfamiliar experience for Lucas. He was accustomed to dominance, to triumph. Yet here he was, the one ensnared, suffering under the weight of silence and scorn. With each departure, the weight of helplessness intensified within him. And that was merely the start. Chloe went beyond mere silence. She started to subtly erode Lucas' confidence through small, hurtful actions. At his workplace, he began to observe that crucial meetings were being rearranged without any prior warning, his business choices were unexpectedly under scrutiny, and the projects he had launched seemed to falter inexplicably. It was clear to him that this had Chloe's fingerprints all over it. Though she would never confess it, Lucas sensed her presence in every action, as if she were manipulating the unseen threads that wove his existence. At home, the situation was deteriorating. Chloe adopted a posture of complete contempt, intentionally setting herself apart from any of Lucas' efforts to make amends. She ceased sharing meals with him, steering clear of any dialogue that ventured beyond the surface. As he pursued her in an attempt to mend their relationship, Chloe met him with icy glares, conveying that his presence was more of an annoyance than anything else. One evening, Lucas discovered her in the living room, engrossed in a book. The atmosphere appeared serene, yet he understood that this fleeting tranquility was a quiet snare. He settled onto the couch, making another attempt to speak. "Chloe," he started, his voice soft, tinged with a hint of desperation. "I am aware that I have committed terrible acts. I understand that I've brought you a great deal of suffering. Could we please attempt to resolve this together? Could we perhaps have a conversation?" Chloe gently shut the book, her gaze averted from him. As she lifted her gaze, the chill in her expression sent a shiver down his spine. "Discuss?" she echoed, a harsh laugh escaping her lips. "Do you believe there's anything more to express? Are you in need of some words, Lucas? After all that you've accomplished, language falls short." "I made a mistake, Chloe." "I understand that," Lucas asserted, rising from the couch and approaching, yearning for any semblance of connection. "I would go to great lengths to amend my mistakes. I have the ability to transform. I promise." She finally turned her eyes toward him, her stare sharp and unwavering, as though daring him to fulfill his own commitments. "Transformation?" she remarked, rising gradually to her feet. "Do you believe that making a change at this moment will wipe the slate clean? Is there a chance it will return my father? Will it mend the years we endured in suffering because of you?" "Absolutely not, Lucas. It definitely will not." As she moved nearer, Lucas found himself enveloped, overwhelmed by the weight of her gaze. "Your current actions don't resonate with me. This is intended for you. This burden, this remorse, will remain with you forever." Lucas remained quiet, lost in thought. For the first time, he understood that redemption would not come easily, nor would forgiveness be granted in an instant. He yearned to battle for something salvageable, yet Chloe was far beyond any straightforward restoration. In the days that ensued, Chloe started to amplify the severity of her consequences. As Lucas walked by her, he was greeted with scornful glances that deepened his frustration into a sense of urgency. He made every effort to demonstrate his transformation, his desire for improvement, yet each gesture was met with apathy or biting remarks. One evening, following a calamitous meeting at work, where a crucial project had been undermined, Lucas returned home to discover Chloe on the phone, laughing heartily. He caught snippets of the dialogue and understood she was talking about his choices at the office. He recognized it was her. Chloe was dismantling everything he had built, but she did so with a quiet precision that only he could perceive, leaving him to endure the pain in solitude. As Chloe ended the call, Lucas stood patiently in the living room. He gazed at her, his face weary, brimming with suppressed fury, yet tinged with sorrow. "It seems you're unraveling everything, don't you think?" He spoke, his voice subdued yet unmistakably tinged with frustration. "In this environment, you're unraveling my existence." Chloe regarded him with a stoic demeanor, her arms crossed firmly. "Ruining your existence?" she inquired, arching an eyebrow. "I'm merely returning what you offered. Rest assured, Lucas, I won't jeopardize your finances. That would be overly simplistic. I want you to embrace the suffering. I want you to experience each small loss, just as I have. I desire for you to witness the collapse of all that you have created each day, and to understand that it is a consequence of your own actions. Once more, Lucas sensed the earth vanish from under him. It felt like a haunting experience. He had consistently emerged as the victor, perpetually the individual who dictated the fates of others. Yet now he found himself at the center of a calculated and chilling retribution. Chloe was reluctant to shatter him completely in one fell swoop. She yearned for him to endure, moment by moment, with each minor setback, every glance of contempt, until he was stripped bare of all but remorse. As the days turned into weeks, Chloe maintained her silence and dished out her retribution. Lucas, once brimming with arrogance and confidence, now drifted through the house like a mere echo of his past self, desperately seeking a forgiveness he understood would remain elusive. He endeavored to make amends, yet his attempts consistently fell short. He found himself ensnared in an unending loop of guilt and anguish, a loop that Chloe manipulated with flawless precision. However, the most challenging moments were still ahead. One night, Chloe finally faced him, her demeanor icy in a way Lucas had never encountered before. She walked over to him, who was slumped on the couch, weary and shattered, and uttered the words that would linger in his mind for eternity. "Lucas, you have taken something from me that I can never reclaim," she started, her tone steady yet piercing. "Now, I'm repaying the debt, and you'll carry that with you for all your days." With those final words, Chloe turned away, leaving him in silence, devoid of anything further to express. There was no necessity for her to do so. The consequences were already set in motion, and Lucas understood that he would never return to his former self. Lucas Marshall found himself ensnared in a labyrinth of remorse and hopelessness. Chloe had managed to make him feel the thrill of losing control. The days that came after Chloe's revelation were nothing short of excruciating. Lucas was no longer the self-assured, haughty figure who thought he wielded power over all that surrounded him. Now, he existed as a mere shadow, a faint echo of his former self. Every effort to engage with Chloe was met with icy glares, dismissal, and outright rejection. Her apathy was consuming him from within. Rest eluded him, his mind consumed by the relentless urge to mend what lay in ruins. Yet, the burden of reality and the choices he had made rendered that journey nearly unattainable. Yet, a transformation started to unfold within Lucas. He came to understand that his expressions had lost their significance. Apologies held no significance. Chloe sought authentic change, true transformation, and he was prepared to go to great lengths to demonstrate it to her. He required deeds, not hollow assurances. One morning, Lucas awoke with a sense of purpose. He understood that merely seeking forgiveness wouldn't suffice. He needed to take a different approach. Initially, it would be important to allow Chloe some room to breathe. She required assurance that he valued her time, that he would no longer impose on her. Yet, he understood the importance of demonstrating his presence, albeit in understated yet significant manners. Lucas started to notice the little details that shaped Chloe's world. He took note of her everyday habits, her tastes, and what brought her joy. He refrained from following her or encroaching on her space, yet he meticulously observed every detail in his mind. Her affection for flowers was particularly strong when it came to peonies. The aroma of her morning coffee, robust and unadulterated, no sweetness added. What were once mere details had transformed into the crucial elements of his quest for reconnection. That very afternoon, Lucas visited one of the finest flower shops in town and selected a bouquet of peonies. He had no intention of handing them over to Chloe directly. He was certain she would dismiss them immediately. He chose to leave the flowers on the kitchen table, absent of any note. Uncomplicated, but significant. He sat in anticipation as she stepped out for a stroll. Upon Chloe's return, she discovered the bouquet waiting for her. She remained silent, yet Lucas caught her in his peripheral vision, noting the precise instant she paused before the flowers. Her demeanor remained unchanged, yet he observed her reach for one of the flowers and inhale its fragrance. Though it seemed minor, for Lucas, it carried profound meaning. Chloe had not dismissed them completely. It was an advancement. In the days that ensued, Lucas continued to engage in these subtle acts of kindness. He meticulously arranged the breakfast table, brewing her coffee robustly, precisely as she preferred, and then departed, ensuring his presence was not felt. He placed small delights within her grasp, always allowing space without imposing a meeting or dialogue. Gradually, he endeavored to demonstrate that he had transformed, that he was attentive, that he truly wished to nurture Chloe. Yet Chloe remained resolute. She maintained the distance between them, and Lucas understood that overcoming that obstacle would require patience. Yet, he refused to surrender. He was determined to demonstrate to her that he was not like the others, that he could earn her trust again, but only by honoring her conditions and acknowledging the distance she required. On a notably frigid evening, the atmosphere started to change. Chloe sat on the balcony, cocooned in a blanket, gazing at the twinkling city lights. After a brief pause, Lucas approached her. He presented her with a steaming cup of tea, aware of her preference for a warm drink before settling in for the night. "Here, I thought you might appreciate something warm," he remarked, maintaining a steady tone, subtly holding back his presence. Chloe remained silent initially, yet she accepted the cup. Her gaze remained locked on the sprawling city before her. Lucas lingered beside her, quiet, merely aiming to be there without overstepping. The stillness that enveloped them was charged, yet for the first time in weeks, it felt oddly bearable. It felt like a shift was occurring, subtle yet undeniable. "What is your reason for this, Lucas?" Chloe finally shattered the stillness, her voice gentle yet resolute. Lucas understood that this was his moment to express himself, yet he needed to tread lightly. He inhaled deeply before crafting his reply. As he gazed at the horizon beside her, he began, "I've come to understand that words have lost their meaning. My words hold no significance. My actions cannot be undone with mere words, yet I am making an effort to demonstrate my transformation. I aspire to improve myself, not solely for your sake, but because I've come to understand that it's essential for my own growth." Chloe lingered in silence for a few more seconds, her fingers wrapped around the cup of tea. The frigid breeze swept by, yet the atmosphere appeared to lighten slightly. "You can't change the past, Lucas," she finally said, her voice gentler than he anticipated. "I understand," he responded earnestly, "yet I have the power to alter what lies ahead." Chloe glanced at him for the first time that night, and Lucas noticed a change in her gaze. The toughness remained, yet a spark of curiosity emerged. She was not yet prepared to extend her forgiveness, a fact he was acutely aware of, yet this was a pivotal moment. He had hinted at something she could find solace in. In the days that followed, Lucas persisted with his subtle gestures, yet an unmistakable shift in energy lingered between them. Chloe maintained her distance, yet her demeanor suggested a subtle shift. She was no longer rejecting him as overtly as she had in the past. She took the flowers, sipped the tea, and permitted him to engage in conversation during breakfast, though their exchange remained fleeting and rather shallow. The obstacles were beginning to fade, albeit gradually, but the true challenge arose one evening as Lucas prepared to depart for a meeting. He was all suited up, prepared for yet another business meeting, when Chloe entered the room, her expression a puzzle he couldn't decipher. "Is it possible for you to cancel your meeting?" she inquired abruptly. Lucas gazed at her, taken aback. She had not displayed any curiosity about his arrivals and departures since their relationship had unraveled. After a moment of doubt, he finally nodded, swiftly reaching for his phone to cancel the meeting without a moment's hesitation. After weeks of distance, Chloe finally appeared open to spending time with him, and he was determined not to let that chance slip away. They sat on the couch, a slight gap lingering between them, yet for the first time, the silence felt oddly at ease. Chloe appeared contemplative, as though she were reflecting on all that had transpired in recent months. "I'm not ready to fully forgive you," Chloe said, shattering the stillness, "but you're revealing a different side to me. It's clear you're making an effort, and perhaps that's the first step towards something greater." Lucas sensed a surge of adrenaline coursing through him. He understood the importance of patience, yet Chloe's words fueled his optimism. He understood that the journey before him would be arduous, yet he was prepared to embrace each stride if it meant winning her forgiveness and perhaps the affection she holds. The night unfolded serenely as they engaged in light conversation, yet for Lucas, it marked a triumph. He was gradually reconstructing something with unwavering patience. Chloe had shed her aura of invincibility. She was beginning to lower her defenses, and Lucas would not fall into the trap of underestimating her once more. Yet, a shadow loomed above them. Lucas sensed that Chloe was still holding back some secrets. She was concealing something, and he had to brace himself to confront it. For the moment, Chloe's willingness to engage in conversation was sufficient. The days that came after that serene night were filled with a blend of unease and optimism. After what seemed like an eternity, Lucas finally sensed that he was moving forward with Chloe. She had softened her demeanor towards him, yet she remained somewhat guarded. A palpable hesitation lingered in the atmosphere, a tension that held him in a state of suspense. He understood the challenge ahead, and he was prepared to face it. Unbeknownst to him, a far greater truth was on the verge of unfolding. Lucas poured his heart and soul into demonstrating to Chloe that he had transformed into a new person. He set aside his work obligations to dedicate more time at home, ensuring he was present for her without imposing any pressure or expecting instant responses. Simple acts, such as preparing breakfast side by side or engaging in light conversation at night, became woven into the fabric of their daily lives. Gradually, the barriers that had separated them started to dissolve, and Lucas observed that Chloe's attitude towards him had shifted from one of contempt. Yet, a lingering unease remained within him. Even with the advancements made, he sensed that Chloe was harboring a hidden truth. She held back at times, steering clear of more profound discussions regarding the past or what lay ahead. She seemed to be biding her time, poised for the perfect moment to share her thoughts, yet Lucas remained unaware of when that moment might arrive. On a tranquil evening, with the rain gently pattering against the penthouse windows, Lucas observed a change in Chloe's demeanor. She appeared more contemplative, more remote than usual, as though she were adrift in her own reflections. He made an effort to hold back, yet his curiosity gnawed at him relentlessly. What secrets lay beneath her surface? What remains unspoken? At last, when the stillness grew intolerable, Lucas shattered the silence. "Chloe," he started, his voice barely above a whisper, tinged with apprehension. "I sense there's an unspoken connection between us that you're holding back. I sense it deeply." He gazed into her eyes, poised for any hint of a response. "If there's anything you're still keeping to yourself, I must know." Chloe, perched on the couch with her hands neatly folded in her lap, inhaled deeply, deliberately steering clear of Lucas's eyes. The ensuing silence was excruciating, yet Lucas understood the necessity of patience. He understood that pushing too hard at this moment could unravel all the strides he had achieved. At last, she turned her gaze toward him, her eyes mirroring a blend of anguish and determination. "You're right, Lucas," she replied, her voice gentle yet laden with feeling. "I've been keeping something inside, something I never thought I could share with you until this moment. Perhaps the moment has arrived." Lucas sensed the atmosphere constricting around him. No matter what it was, he understood it would alter the course of everything. He leaned in a bit, anticipation building for the insight that was on the verge of unfolding. Yet, there was an underlying anxiety about the words that might come his way. "Do you recall the business you brought down? The one that my father oversaw?" Chloe started, her voice resolute yet her face revealing profound sorrow. "I expressed that you shattered our family, and that is indeed the case. Yet, that's not the only thing you shattered." Lucas gazed at her, a look of bewilderment on his face. "Could you clarify what you mean?" he inquired, his tone laced with worry. Chloe cast her gaze downward, battling the tears that were on the verge of spilling over. When she finally found her voice again, it was softer, nearly a whisper. I was expecting, Lucas. Those words struck Lucas with an overwhelming force. He blinked, attempting to absorb the weight of the words that had just reached his ears. Yet, he found it hard to accept. What is happening? He murmured, astonished. I was expecting at the time when everything unfolded, Chloe continued, her gaze still directed at the ground. In the depths of our loss, with my father no longer by our side, the weight of the world bore down on me, and in that turmoil, I lost the baby. Lucas experienced a disorienting sensation, as if the very earth had vanished from under him. He struggled to catch his breath. The revelation struck him with the force of a gut-wrenching blow. Something he could never have envisioned. The guilt that had been gnawing at him for weeks now intensified, enveloping him further. He had obliterated not merely a business, not solely a family, but an entire existence. Chloe, he attempted to utter a word, but his voice faltered. I was unaware. I could never have foreseen. At last, she turned her gaze toward him, and the tears she had been suppressing began to flow freely down her face. Despite the pain etched on her face, an unmistakable strength radiated from within her. No, you didn't know, Chloe said, her voice heavy with pain and bitterness. Since you never took the time to understand. You shattered lives, Lucas, and you didn't even spare a glance at those you trampled over. I lost my baby, and you continued on with your life as if nothing had changed. Her words pierced Lucas with the sharpness of blades. He longed to take action, to utter words that might mend the damage he had caused, yet deep down, he understood that no gesture or statement could undo the hardships Chloe had endured. I can't find the words, Lucas finally managed to say, his voice trembling with despair. I understand that my actions are beyond redemption, and I will carry this burden of self-reproach forever. But please, Chloe, I would go to any lengths to try and set this straight, anything. Chloe observed him intently, the weight of the ensuing silence palpable in the air. Lucas understood that no words could restore what was lost or mend the past, yet he felt an urgent need to discover a way to alleviate some of the anguish Chloe was enduring. At last, Chloe inhaled deeply and shut her eyes, as though arriving at a profound conclusion within herself. Upon reopening her eyes, her demeanor had shifted. The ache lingered, yet there was an additional sensation, an elusive quality that Lucas struggled to pinpoint. I'm not sure I can find it in my heart to forgive you, Lucas, she admitted with sincerity. Your actions and the resulting events were truly heartbreaking. However, she hesitated, as though considering her subsequent words carefully. I recognize your efforts, and perhaps, just perhaps, there's a possibility that someday I might discover a path to progress. However, the journey will be challenging and time-consuming. Lucas nodded, caught in a whirlwind of optimism and desolation. He understood that the journey ahead would be challenging, yet there was a glimmer of hope in Chloe's openness to envision a different future. I'll do whatever it takes, Lucas declared, his voice brimming with resolve. Regardless of the time it requires, I will demonstrate to you that I have transformed, that I can become a person you can rely on, someone you might, perhaps one day, find it in your heart to forgive. Chloe gazed at him, and for the first time, a subtle crack appeared in the facade. It wasn't complete absolution, nor was it the conclusion of all the pain, but it was a step forward, a new chapter unfolding. We'll see, Chloe murmured with a gentle sigh, we'll see if you can. The stillness that enveloped them was thick, yet brimming with potential. Chloe rose and made her way to the door, leaving Lucas solitary on the couch, yet, this time, he was devoid of the despair that had once consumed him. He understood that a lengthy journey lay before him, yet now, there was a glimmer of hope. The days that ensued after Chloe's revelation marked a significant turning point for Lucas. Each word she uttered lingered in his thoughts, a heavy burden as he grappled with the guilt of the hurt he had inflicted. Yet, rather than succumbing to remorse, Lucas resolved to transform that pain and guilt into a catalyst for his own transformation. He sought not only to reclaim Chloe's affection but also to transform into a man deserving of her esteem and the regard of those he had wronged during his relentless pursuit of success. On that particular morning, Lucas arrived at a pivotal decision. He refused to remain passive, allowing the past to define his future endlessly. He would begin anew, and the initial move would be to mend as much of the harm as he was able. In an effort to demonstrate his genuine transformation to Chloe, he set out to locate the families whose lives had been shattered by his past business actions. His initial visit was to the family of a former rival, whose enterprise he had dismantled years prior. He showed up unexpectedly, rapping on the door of a humble dwelling in a community that starkly contrasted with the luxury of his own existence. The figure who opened the door was unknown to Lucas, yet the anguish reflected in his gaze felt all too recognizable. "I'm Lucas Marshall," Lucas stated, his voice carrying a sincerity he hardly recognized within himself. "I wish to express my sincerest apologies." The man fixed his gaze on him, a look of disbelief etched across his face. "Say sorry." He let out a harsh, mirthless laugh. "What difference will that make now?" "I cannot alter what has already happened," Lucas stated with conviction, "but I can make an effort to assist in shaping what lies ahead. I'm here to provide restitution, to mend what I have damaged." In the weeks that followed, Lucas pressed on with his quest for redemption. He knocked on doors, engaged with families, and provided not only financial support but also his time and effort to genuinely grasp the effects of his actions. He started contributing significant amounts to small businesses affected by his corporate actions, establishing recovery programs to assist other entrepreneurs in their rebuilding efforts. Chloe observed the scene unfold from afar. Initially, she was careful, watching Lucas's actions closely. She understood he was making an effort to transform, yet granting forgiveness would not be a simple task. As time went on and Lucas underwent a genuine transformation, she found herself experiencing an unexpected shift in her feelings towards him, a newfound respect and admiration blossoming within her. He was transforming, demonstrating that his words held weight now. As dusk settled, Chloe found herself on the balcony, gazing at the twinkling city lights, when she felt Lucas's presence beside her, his approach almost silent. He had just come back from yet another reconciliation visit, and his demeanor was transformed, more serene and determined. "How did it go today?" Chloe inquired, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. Lucas exhaled, a heavy breath that bore the weight of countless days filled with struggle and remorse. "Challenging," he acknowledged, "yet essential. Each dialogue, each expression of regret, serves as a stride toward personal growth." "This isn't solely for you, Chloe." "Same here." At last, she shifted her gaze to him. Her gaze held a certain uniqueness, something that set it apart. The toughness that had lingered, the resentment she had clung to, appeared to have eased. In that instant, she realized that Lucas was genuinely transforming. He had transformed from the cocky figure who had barged into her world with a wager. He was a person striving for uniqueness, a person ready to battle for them. "I understand that, Lucas," Chloe said, her voice gentle yet resolute, "and I want you to know that I'm prepared to give it a shot. Perhaps we should let go of the past and create something fresh." Lucas experienced a surge of relief that he hadn't even recognized he was anticipating. Those words held a significance for him that surpassed his wildest expectations. Chloe was open to the possibility, not as a pair bound by a wager, but as two individuals prepared to embark on a new beginning. As the 6-month marriage agreement drew to a close, an unexpected turn of events began to unfold. Chloe and Lucas developed a deeper connection. Their discussions grew more relaxed, more at ease. They exchanged joyful moments filled with laughter and a deep sense of connection. And gradually, affection began to unfold in a manner neither of them had anticipated. They had transformed from a distant couple bound by an arranged marriage. At that moment, they were two souls reconnecting in an authentic and deeply emotional manner. As the 6-month period drew to a close, Lucas set the stage for a memorable dinner that evening. This moment was destined to be crucial. They had journeyed a great distance, and he was determined not to let the marriage conclude at that point. "Chloe," he said during dinner, his voice tinged with an unexpected nervousness. "I understand that our agreement is nearing its conclusion, but I wish for this to continue. I wish for us to continue. My heart has found its home in you, Chloe. Indeed. I desire for us to move forward, but this time as a genuine couple. No wagers. No games." Chloe gazed at him, taken aback by the genuine nature of his words, her heart feeling a comforting warmth. She came to understand that her feelings for him had also deepened, a subtle shift that had unfolded over the last few weeks. What began as a rivalry had transformed into a profound and genuine love. "I love you too, Lucas," Chloe said, her voice a soothing blend of warmth and resolve. "I wish to give it a shot. I wish to create something together, this time as partners, as a genuine couple." Those moments radiated sheer joy for both of them. They had triumphed over challenges that once appeared insurmountable, and now they stood poised to advance together. Months later, Chloe began to perceive a change within her body. She experienced a wave of nausea each morning, an unfamiliar sensation for her. It was only following a checkup that she felt certain about her pregnancy. When Chloe shared the news with Lucas, his response was filled with uncontainable happiness. He held her close, a mix of laughter and tears spilling forth. All they had endured, the suffering and sorrow, now appeared to culminate in this moment of rebirth. They stood on the brink of a new chapter, united, with a fresh family member soon to join them. "I want to get this right this time," Lucas said, fully aware of what he had to do. "I wish to marry you once more, but this time genuinely, not due to a wager, nor for any motive other than my love for you and my desire to share my life with you." Chloe beamed, her joyful tears blending with his. "I desire that as well, Lucas," she responded. "This time, it will be a genuine celebration, a new beginning." Their recent wedding was a heartfelt gathering, shared with a select group of dear friends and family. Free from the trappings of superficiality in the frenzy of commerce or chance, Chloe and Lucas stand together, bound by genuine affection, prepared to embrace whatever the future holds. Lucas understood that he had much to demonstrate, not only to Chloe but also to himself and the families he had hurt before. But now, he had a purpose, a fresh beginning with the woman he cherished and the child they were anticipating. This time, he was resolute in his commitment to become the man Chloe truly deserved and the father their child required. As they swayed gently at the conclusion of the ceremony, Chloe leaned her head against Lucas' chest and murmured, "Who would have imagined it all began with a wager?" Lucas beamed, embracing her tightly. "Who could have imagined it would turn out to be the most rewarding choice I ever made?" With a future brimming with love, redemption, and hope, they stood poised for the next chapter of their lives. What are your thoughts? Was Chloe's decision to forgive and marry Lucas the right one? We'd love to hear your insights in the comments section. Your thoughts would be greatly appreciated. Your involvement is incredibly valuable to us. If this tale resonated with you, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Thank you for tuning in.